You spend most of your professional life wrestling with what problems?
Oh, absolutely.
What should our new product roadmap look like? What's the best strategy to pivot the business? What processes are we going to fix next?
It's that constant intellectual treadmill of management, isn't it? We
Yeah.
celebrate the strategic genius, the operational wizard, the person who solved the market puzzle.
Right.
But the surprising, persistent truth that emerges when you study the most successful leaders, the ones who truly scaled and succeeded, is that the who problem always, always outweighs the what problem.
And we're diving into that who problem today because, simply put, getting the right people
Hmm.
it's the foundation upon which every successful strategy is built.
And getting it wrong.
Getting it wrong is not just inefficient, it's financially devastating and, personally exhausting.
Look at the sheer, tangible pain this causes. Take Nate Thompson, the CEO of SpectraLogic. He spent his early career obsessed with engineering brilliance, with market strategy. He thought his job was about products and, market positioning.
And he found out pretty quick that his focus was completely wrong. His bad hires were actively undoing all of his hard work.
That's it, exactly. Thompson talks about this time he hired a sales executive who he looked great on paper, seemed perfect, but within months, that executive was fraudulently inflating his commissions.
We're not talking about a mistake here. This is fraud.
Right. It wasn't a mistake of judgment. It was active, malicious fraud. This sales VP was taking spreadsheet entries of like a 1 for commissions and manually turning them into a 4.
Wow.
That's financial malfeasance that stemmed directly from a flawed hiring process. And that's the kind of chaos that keeps a leader up at night.
And he goes way beyond the balance sheet. Thompson shared this deeply personal cost. He loves to ski. So he drove his family all the way up to Vail, Colorado for what was supposed to be a relaxing vacation. But because of the low-level chaos and constant crises caused by his team back home,
The wrong team?
the wrong team, he spent the first 4 hours of every single day glued to his phone, just putting out fires.
While his family was out on the slopes, he was tethered to the office, his wife and kids. They eventually just stopped waiting for him.
That's the brutal personal cost of getting the who wrong. It robs you of your time, your peace, your ability to be present.
Yeah, you can build the greatest strategy in the world, but if your team requires constant crisis management, you, the leader, are the one paying the ultimate price.
And the statistical price tag is, it's absolutely dire. We are talking about massive financial loss here.
The statistics are, they're consistent across industries. The average hiring mistake is estimated to cost 15 times an employee's base salary.
15 times.
15. Let that sink in for a second.
So if you hire a mid-level manager at, say, $100,000,
Yeah.
and they turn out to be a blunder, you're looking at a hard cost of $1.5 million.
Or more. That includes severance, recruiting fees, lost productivity, damaged client relationships, the whole cascade. Nate Thompson himself estimated that his initial hiring mistakes cost SpectraLogic as much as $100 million in lost value.
$100 million.
And if you look at the general landscape, management gurus estimate the typical hiring success rate is a dismal 50%.
It's a coin flip.
A coin flip. Every single time you bring someone new onto your core team.
A 50% success rate is not a business process, it's a gamble. And that's why we're here today. We are going deep into the counter strategy. A simple, practical, proven method called the GHS SMART, a method for hiring.
And it's designed to consistently identify and hire A players, pushing that success rate up to 90% or better.
Okay, but before we jump in, we need to clarify what an A player really is, because the definition is, it's pretty strict.
Oh.
An A player is not just someone who is competent or well-liked.
No, not at all. It's a standard based on measurable outcomes.
Exactly.
An A player is defined as someone who has at least a 90% chance of achieving a specific set of outcomes that only the top 10% of possible candidates could successfully accomplish.
So they're in a league of their own for that specific role. We're not aiming for good enough.
No, we are defining and achieving greatness in talent acquisition.
And the beauty of the A method is that it's not some abstract philosophy. It's a 4-step, repeatable process. And those 4 steps are going to form the structure of our deep dive today.
It creates a comprehensive system. Step 1 is the scorecard, which is the blueprint for success.
Okay.
Step 2 is source, which is all about how to generate a constant flow of A players.
Then step 3 is select. And this gives us the framework for the 4 crucial interviews you need to spot those A players.
And finally, step 4 is sell. The top 5 ways to ensure you actually land the talent you so desperately need.
Okay, let's unpack this first step, the scorecard. When someone hears scorecard, they might just think, oh, a job description.
Right.
So why is the traditional job description, that vague, dusty thing that's often copied and pasted from 3 years ago, why is it fundamentally insufficient for finding A players?
Because a traditional job description focuses on activities and tasks, duties like manages internal communications or attends weekly meetings. It's all about input.
Okay.
A scorecard, on the other hand, it focuses on performance and output. It is your architectural blueprint, and without it, you are basically building the wrong house.
And this isn't just a theory. The source material has a perfect example of how a lack of a scorecard creates
Well,
chaos. Tell us about the financial services institution trying to hire a VP of strategic planning.
it was a global firm, and the executive team was just arguing in circles. The hiring manager was focused on the immediate need. He said they needed someone who could gather all the business unit plans and consolidate them into a coherent master budget.
So a tactical planner, a numbers person.
Exactly. Highly detailed, internal-facing person, but his own manager immediately jumped in, completely contradicting him.
Because he saw the bigger picture.
Precisely. The manager said, no, that's not what we need at all. We need a visionary leader, someone who can survey the market, analyze disruption, and devise new, maybe high-risk strategies to keep us ahead of the competition.
They spent 20 minutes just debating the fundamental identity of the job.
Can you imagine?
That is organizational chaos.
Okay.
Imagine if they had already moved to the interview phase. They would have hired the wrong person for the wrong expectation, leading to an inevitable firing 12 months later.
Exactly. And the scorecard is designed to fix that internal alignment before you even talk to candidate one. It achieves this by requiring 3 really concrete components.
Okay, what are they?
Component A is the mission. This must be a concise, plain language summary, just 1 to 5 sentences, that boils the job down to its core purpose. No corporate gobbledygook.
And this mission statement, as simple as it sounds, is what allows us to execute on a crucial insight. Don't hire the generalist, hire the specialist.
This is a mistake that we see even really sophisticated organizations make. They look for the all-around athlete, the candidate who looks great on paper because they've done a bit of everything: strategy, operations, finance.
They seem impressive.
They are impressive, but they are generalists, and generalists rarely excel at solving narrow, deep business problems.
I always think of it like this. If I have a persistent cough, I go to my family doctor. But if that doctor tells me they found a shadow on my lung and I might need surgery,
Yeah.
I'm immediately demanding the most specialized thoracic surgeon in the region. I want a specialist for a life or death problem.
And business problems should be treated with the same urgency. We have the classic example of Nick Chabraja, the CEO of General Dynamics. He made that exact generalist mistake.
What happened?
He hired a tremendously capable executive who was an innovative business developer, great at conceiving of new programs and selling them, a real all-around athlete.
Which sounds like a great hire on its face.
It does, but it failed because he didn't check that hire against the specific specialist need of the company at that moment.
And what was that need?
General Dynamics at that time wasn't suffering from a lack of potential sales. They had a huge existing backlog of orders. They desperately needed an all-operations specialist, someone who could run the massive, intricate operational machinery efficiently to mine that backlog.
So the innovator he hired just did what he was good at.
He put more orders into the backlog, stressing the system even further, and operating margins just declined as a result. Chabraja realized he needed a specialist whose deep competence was optimizing complex internal processes.
The best companies, like Intel, seem to get this instinctively.
They do. Arthur Rock, an early Intel investor, noted that their CEO succession was perfectly aligned with their specialist needs at the time. Bob Noyce was the inventor, Gordon Moore was the technologist who scaled it, and Andy Grove was the hard-charging driver who forced discipline. Each was a specialist for their time.
Okay, so that's the mission. What's component B?
Component B is outcomes. This is the measurable translation of the mission. We're talking 3 to 8 specific, objective, and observable accomplishments.
These are the non-negotiable deliverables.
That's right. For a sales role, quantification is easy. Grow revenue from $25 million to $50 million by end of year 3. But even for non-sales roles, you have to demand objective criteria.
Like what? For a marketing role?
For a marketing VP, it might be create and implement a new brand awareness campaign within 180 days that generates a documented 20% increase in social media engagement.
The key here is specificity, right? By making the outcomes this precise, you're giving the new hire a clear, liberating game plan. They know exactly what success looks like on day one.
Precisely. Vague goals produce vague results. Specific outcomes create immediate focus and accountability.
And finally, component C is competencies. If mission is why and outcomes are what, competencies define the how.
Exactly. How is this person expected to operate and behave? This is where we measure behavioral fit.
Okay.
We've studied A players across diverse fields, and they consistently exhibit certain critical competencies: high efficiency, unquestionable honesty and integrity, persistence, intelligence, and proactivity. These are the general drivers of success.
But the source material emphatically stresses that beyond those general skills, you absolutely must nail cultural competencies. Because a superstar who poisons the well is not a superstar.
Absolutely not. And the data is sobering. Fully 1 in 3 CEOs cited cultural mismatch as the primary reason for a major hiring mistake. You could hire the most brilliant person in the world, but if their behavior undermines your core values, they become a liability.
Let's look at the story of George Hamilton from the Institute for Sustainable Communities. He hired a star, a business development executive who was brilliant and successful. Had the outcomes, but
But he lacked the fit. This star was, in Hamilton's own words, an unbelievable pain to work with. He believed he was the smartest person in the room and couldn't tolerate anyone he perceived as less intelligent, which he estimated was about 99% of the organization.
So even though he was achieving these amazing results on paper, his behavior, his arrogance, it meant that the organization just rejected his ideas. He was a force multiplier of disruption.
Hamilton had to ask him to leave. The cost of having a brilliant, non-aligned star is often greater than the cost of having a moderately talented, highly collaborative team player.
Or consider the extreme rigor of Centerbridge Partners, the firm that raised the largest first-time buyout fund in history. They define their core cultural competencies strictly. Treats people with respect and trustworthiness.
And they applied this standard even when faced with overwhelming talent. They passed on an otherwise highly talented investor because, during a reference check, they discovered he had been reprimanded in a previous job for using the F word numerous times during a heated negotiation.
That's amazing discipline. They saw a flash of behavioral inconsistency, a lack of respect under pressure, and they just let the talent go.
That's the key takeaway here. The scorecard is not just a hiring tool, it's a strategic document. John Zillmer, the CEO of Allied Waste, proved this. He implemented the A method, and within 18 months, he hired or promoted 27 new A players with a 90% success rate.
And the result was undeniable. Company value increased by 67% in that period. The scorecard linked strategy to execution.
It translated strategy into execution, person by person.
Before we move on to how we actually fill these scorecards, we need a moment of, well, critical self-reflection. We have to talk about what the A method is designed to replace: the widespread, nonsensical practice of voodoo hiring.
It's necessary because so many smart managers, when faced with the ambiguity of hiring, revert to what feels comfortable, which is often completely irrational. Steve Kerr from GE called this feeling that hiring is a mysterious black art.
It's this desperate attempt to find a shortcut or a secret signal. Let's laugh at a few of these because they are depressingly common. You got the art critic?
Yes. The manager who relies on their gut instinct, they believe they can size up a candidate in the first 3 minutes based on their handshake.
And they are dead wrong. We know from behavioral science that gut feeling is almost entirely based on similarity bias and is a terrible predictor of actual job performance.
Then there's the organizational disaster. The sponge. You let 8 different people interview the candidate, none of them coordinating their questions.
And you end up with 6 interviewers asking the candidate about their skydiving hobby. 0 facts, 0 depth. The final assessment is always, he was a good guy, seemed fine.
Or the deeply aggressive approach. The prosecutor. This is the manager who tries to use trick questions like, why are manhole covers round? They think they're measuring lateral intelligence.
But they're really just measuring who has the best canned answer. It doesn't test their ability to perform the job outcomes on the scorecard.
My personal favorite is the animal lover. If you were an animal, which would you be and why?
And the manager is sitting there with the secret answer key. If they say cheetah, they're aggressive. It's complete bunk.
And we have to mention the fortune teller, asking hypothetical questions. How would you handle a conflict between 2 team members? The candidate gives a perfect, sanitized, textbook answer.
But research proves those nice-sounding answers are useless for predicting future behavior. We need history, not hypothesis.
Right. And the A method sweeps all that voodoo away and replaces it with a proactive, disciplined process. Source. The traditional model is reactive. Panic, vacancy, call HR, desperate search.
The A method says if you're a leader, you must always be sourcing.
Absolutely. The best executives we studied recognize that recruiting is not HR's job, it is theirs. They function as the chief recruiting officer, always keeping the pipeline full, even when there aren't immediate openings.
So where do these top-tier A players come from? The data is overwhelming. The number one source is referrals.
77% of industry leaders cite referrals from business and personal networks as their top technique. It's a system built on relationships, not ads.
Take Patrick Ryan, the founder of Aon. He grew it into a $13 billion giant. His method was deceptively simple, but incredibly powerful.
Yeah, the moment he met someone talented, what was his question?
He'd ask, who are the most talented people you know that I should hire?
That's it. No pressure, just a simple request for names. If you ask 10 talented people this question, you quickly generate 50 to 100 high-quality names. This is how he was able to nurture Greg Case for years, eventually naming him as his successor.
That shifts the mindset from waiting for a resume to actively searching for the best people in the world. And this applies internally too, right? With internal referrals.
Oh, for sure. Who better understands your scorecard and your culture than your current A players?
Right. They don't want to work with B or C players.
Exactly. They have too much to lose. Salim Asoul of Middleby Corporation found that his employees referred 85% of their new hires. Paul Tudor Jones noted that referred hires were 60% more successful.
So you should make it part of their job.
That's what we suggest. Ad sourcing, for example, source 5 A-player candidates per year as a measurable outcome on every single manager's scorecard. It decentralizes the function and makes everyone a recruiting officer.
Beyond referrals, we have other tools. You can deputize friends of the firm.
Yes, incentivize key influencers in your network. The private equity firm, BSMB, offers their friends the ultimate incentive, the chance to invest in their funds without management fees.
Wow. When you offer a cut of 30% annual returns, you ensure they take your sourcing seriously.
You do. And when you engage external recruiters or researchers, they have to be treated as genuine partners. You have to open the kimono, share the scorecard, the culture, all of it.
Or they'll just waste your time.
They will. Ed Evans of Allied Waste found that if you don't educate the recruiter, they will send you candidates who are technically skilled but culturally misaligned.
The common thread across all of this is sourcing discipline. It needs a system.
It requires dedicated time. You must schedule 30 minutes weekly, religiously, to focus solely on this. Use a spreadsheet, use software, whatever, but you need a tracking system to identify and nurture these A players, even if they aren't available now.
You're building relationships for the future.
That's right. And for those cold calls to talented people, you need a non-threatening opening. Simple is best. Lead with the referral name if you have one. Sue recommended that you and I connect. I understand you are great at what you do.
Flattery and curiosity.
Exactly. Most A players are thrilled to chat for a few minutes about what they are passionate about. This whole process. It paid off when Bank One was searching for a new CEO.
The bank was in crisis, and the initial search criteria were generic.
Right. But the search committee, led by James Crown and John Hall, partnered with a recruiter, Andrea Redmond. She first forced them to refine that generic job description into an actionable scorecard. Then Crown and Hall took sourcing to the next level.
They personally traveled everywhere, meeting not just candidates, but people who could give them names.
They treated no as a starting point, constantly nurturing relationships, and the process demanded radical honesty, which is what they got from Jamie Dimon when Redmond asked him about his infamous departure from Citigroup.
Most executives use corporate jargon. Strategic differences, time for a change.
But Dimon was different. Redmond asked why he left, and he just flatly said, you know what, I was fired.
That's shockingly candid.
Redmond said in 15 years, nobody had ever just admitted that so openly. And that straightforwardness went a long way to convincing the committee he was the right non-political person to handle the mess at Bank One.
So is that combination of a strong scorecard, persistent sourcing from the top, and a candidate's willingness to be radically candid about his past, even his failures.
That was the winning equation.
We've built the blueprint with the scorecard and filled the pipeline through source. Now we arrive at the most sensitive part, select. If traditional interviews are, as Steve Kerr put it, almost a random predictor of future success, how does the A method get to that 90% success rate?
By moving away from subjective voodoo and toward objective, fact-based pattern recognition. The A method uses a sequence of 4 highly structured interviews that build on each other.
Okay, let's start with interview 1, the screening interview. The purpose here is simple. Eliminate B and C players as fast as possible. Hit the gone fast.
Exactly. This should be brief, ideally by phone, under 30 minutes, to save precious time. The interview is structured around 4 essential questions that we must ask every single time.
Question 1. What are your career goals? What are we listening for?
We're listening for passion and alignment. Are their deep motivations aligned with the mission and outcomes of the role? If their goals are vague and generic, that's a red flag. Players have an intentional trajectory.
Question 2. What are you really good at professionally?
And here we push for specifics, 8 to 12 discrete areas of competence with context. If they just say, I'm great at sales, you follow up, great at sales, how? Give me examples.
No.
We are fishing for evidence of deep, specialized skill.
Question 3. What are you not good at or not interested in doing professionally? This is where people try to give the fake humble brag answer, isn't it?
Oh, they absolutely do. My biggest weakness is I work too hard, or I'm a perfectionist. You have to gently push past that until they offer a genuine professional blind spot. If they refuse to admit any weakness, they lack self-awareness. Major red flag.
And question 4 is the one that sets the hook for the entire process, establishing the truth serum. What is the core question?
This is the threat of reference check, or TORC. The question is, who are your last 5 bosses, and how will they each rate your performance on a 1-10 scale when we talk to them? We are asking what the boss will say, compelling them to be honest right now.
And we're only looking for what ratings?
8s, 9s, and 10s. Anything lower than an 8 is a major problem, and realistically, a 6 is almost always a 2. Most people are too polite to give a 1, so a 6 is code for do not hire.
The master tactic that makes this all work is getting curious. How do we use that simple framework? What? How? Tell me more. To get past the generic answers.
We have to assume every answer is a lead we need to drill down on. Think about the example of the manager who said he was not great at dealing with conflict. That's generic.
So we press in. Tell me more about a time when conflict management was a challenge. What happened?
Exactly. And the interviewer uncovered a devastating pattern. The manager had 2 subordinates who were constantly fighting. He repeatedly threatened to fire the aggressor, but he never followed through. He just kept putting it off, hoping it would solve itself.
That one pattern, the inability to follow through on consequences and the avoidance of necessary confrontation, reveals deep managerial dysfunction.
All from one seemingly generic answer. The takeaway from the screening interview is rigor. You must eliminate fast so you can spend quality time on the truly elite candidates.
Once we've culled the B and C players, we get to the heart of the matter. Interview 2, the who interview. This is where we gather the 15 years of career data needed to spot patterns.
This is the most crucial interview, and it demands 3 hours of dedicated time.
3 hours.
3 hours. That investment signals seriousness and gives the candidate enough space to settle into a chronological, fact-based storytelling mode rather than just reciting bullet points.
We walk through their career, job by job, chronologically. And for each job, we hit the 5 core questions. Let's break them down. Question 1. What were you hired to do?
This lets us mentally reconstruct the scorecard they had in their mind at the time. Did their expectations align with what the company actually needed?
Question 2. What accomplishments are you most proud of?
Players inherently link their proudest accomplishments back to the original expectations of the role. B and C players, conversely, tend to talk about general events or how they got along with colleagues without focusing on measurable output.
Question 3. What were some low points during that job? You said earlier everyone has lows, but candidates try to deny them.
You keep reframing the question politely. Look, every job has challenges. Tell me about a time things went really wrong. What was the biggest mistake you made, and what did you learn? We need evidence of their self-awareness and ability to own their mistakes.
Question 4. Who were the people you worked with? This is the heavy application of the truth serum.
Yes. You ask for the boss's name, and then you signal intent. John Smith, you say. SMITH. Right, thank you. You get the name, number, signaling that you will call. Then you ask the key question. What will Mr. Smith say were your greatest strengths and biggest areas for improvement?
And finally, question 5. Why did you leave that job? This helps us differentiate between A players and others.
This is about push versus pull. A players are almost always pulled to greater opportunities. B and C players are often pushed out because their performance declined or they clashed with management. If a candidate has been pushed out of 20% or more of their jobs, that's a significant pattern suggesting they are not an A player.
The power of this chronological, fact-based interrogation is incredible. We have to share the most shocking anecdote from the source material to prove how deep this method goes. The story of the VP of Sales and the $3 million slap.
This VP of Sales was an extremely talented, high-potential candidate. When asked why he left his most recent job, he gave the classic cover-up: philosophical disagreement with the CEO.
Which naturally triggers the what, how, tell me more framework.
Exactly. The interviewer pressed for specifics. Tell me exactly how that disagreement played out. The candidate, under this continuous, polite pressure, finally cracked.
What happened?
He admitted that the CEO, frustrated by missed sales targets, had publicly blamed the VP in front of the board. The VP, in a fit of rage, went to the CEO's office, looked him in the eye, and called him an extremely offensive, derogatory nickname.
And the escalation didn't stop there.
No. When the CEO immediately terminated him, revoking his stock options, the VP physically struck the CEO in the face in an open-handed slap in the CEO's private office, costing him $3 million in options. He called it his $3 million slap.
My jaw's on the floor. That is profound behavioral data. You never, ever get that level of information from a traditional 30-minute interview.
The fact that he would physically assault his boss and lose $3 million in options reveals a pattern of profound emotional volatility and zero self-control under pressure.
To ensure we get that depth, we need to use the other master tactics of the WHO interview. Let's talk about polite interrupting. Why is this essential?
You have to interrupt. Candidates, particularly those hiding something, will ramble about irrelevant details. The weather, the traffic, a pig farm next door to the office. If you don't interrupt, you lose the narrative and the clock runs out.
So we cut them off gently. We say something like, wow, that pig farm sounded horrible.
Right.
You were just mentioning the launch of that campaign. That sounds fascinating. What was that like?
You match their enthusiasm, but you immediately pivot back to the relevant, factual data needed for the scorecard.
Next, the 3 Ps. This is critical for quantifying accomplishments.
The 3 Ps force quantification. When a candidate boasts about a success, we ask, how did that performance compare to the previous year? How did it compare to the plan? And how did it compare to your peers?
So if they say, I grew sales to $2 million, but the plan was $5 million, that's not an A-player accomplishment.
Exactly. But if they say, I grew sales to $2 million when the plan was 1.2, the previous year was 150, and I ranked first among 30 peers, that is verifiable, a player performance.
And finally, stopping at the stop signs. What should we be looking for?
Inconsistencies, both verbal and nonverbal. If a candidate says, I did great in that role, while shifting in their chair, clearing their throat, or covering their mouth, that is a stop sign. You slam on the brakes and get curious.
Once we have the deep historical data from the WHO interview, we move to interview 3, the focused interview. What's the primary function of this step?
To turn up the magnification on specific elements of the scorecard, this is where you involve other key team members, but critically, everyone must stick strictly to 1 or 2 outcomes or competencies defined in the blueprint.
So if we're hiring a VP of product development, we might assign a lead engineer to focus entirely on the competency, efficiency, and persistence.
Precisely. And a marketing executive to focus entirely on the outcome successful launch of 3 complex products. This structure prevents the sponge problem and ensures depth.
This is also the ideal time to run a deep cultural fit check.
Absolutely. The example of First Solar is instructive. They were growing so rapidly that they recognized not everyone could handle their intensely fast-moving, aggressive culture.
So they instituted a specific cultural fit interview to vet people against core values like continuous improvement and operational speed. They were willing to pass on technically competent individuals if they couldn't handle the pace.
They understood that a technical A player who slows the machine down due to cultural drag is a B or C player in that specific environment.
The final layer of protection is interview 4, the reference interview. We've been using the threat, but now we go and gather the facts. Why is it so dangerous to skip this?
The risk is enormous. Robert Hearst, the retired vice chairman of Goldman Sachs, learned this when he hired a CFO. The candidate didn't want the reference check done. Hearst conceded, and the hire was a disaster.
He estimates he lost 25% of necessary information by skipping that step.
Exactly. The process has to be meticulous. First, you choose the references, 7 people minimum. 3 past bosses, 2 peers or customers, and 2 subordinates. Not just the friendly list the candidate gives you.
Second, you ask the candidate to contact those 7 people and set up the calls.
Yeah.
Why does the candidate need to make the contact?
It's the easiest way to break through corporate HR gatekeepers. When a high-level candidate says, "My future employer will be calling you at 2 p.m., people are far more likely to take the call.
And the interview itself must be structured. The third question is the key to unlocking the truth, thanks to 2 magic words.
Yes, in question 3 we ask, what were the person's biggest areas for improvement back then? The phrase "back then" is psychologically liberating. It gives the reference permission to speak candidly about past weaknesses, with the implicit assumption that the candidate has already fixed them.
And we use the TRRC data one last time in question 5. The person mentioned that he struggled with X in that job. Can you tell me more about that?
That's a powerful move because it frames the reference's response. They are no longer revealing a secret. They are merely confirming what the candidate already told you.
But even with all this rigor, we have to be vigilant against false positives, people who give lukewarm or coded references.
People avoid giving negative references. You have to learn to break the code. First, look for if-then qualifications. Stacy Schusterman, an executive, heard this code. If you are willing to have a guy disagree with you, then hire this person.
That's code for he's stubborn and difficult.
Exactly. Look for hesitation, ums and errs, and look for faint praise. If you ask about a candidate's greatest strength, and the reference says he was fine, he showed up on time, that is a terrible reference.
A truly positive reference should be brimming with genuine, uncontainable enthusiasm.
They should sound disappointed that they lost that person. After all 4 interviews, you rate the candidate against the scorecard on 2 final metrics: skill and will.
Skill is their demonstrated ability to achieve the outcomes. Will is their motivation and their cultural fit.
And you are looking for a bullseye and 90% confidence level that their skill and will profile exactly matches your scorecard. If you don't have it, you go back to sourcing. You do not compromise.
We've found the person. We have 90% confidence that they are the A player we need. But now comes the moment where all that effort can collapse. The sell. If you fumble the closing, all the time and analysis is wasted.
It's a major failure point for managers. Selling must be continuous and proactive, not just a reactive presentation of a comp package at the end. To sell successfully, you have to focus on what we call the 5 F's of selling.
Number 1, and the most crucial F, is fit.
This is the alignment of your company's mission and culture with the candidate's personal goals and strengths. You have to show that you are as concerned with the fit for them as you are with the fit for you. A, players want to make a meaningful impact.
The second F is family. This is the non-negotiable emotional hurdle of changing jobs, especially if it involves relocation.
This cannot be ignored. John Malone of Liberty Media was recruiting Greg Maffei, whose family was deeply rooted in Seattle. In nearly every single conversation, he proactively asked, "How is your wife feeling about this move? Have you talked to your kids about Denver?" He was constantly mitigating that resistance.
And sometimes you need to go to extreme lengths for the family sell. The legendary story about Tex Chance shows that commitment.
It's a fantastic story. The CEO's assistant, Tex Chance, was trying to woo a high-profile sales executive and his family from the Northeast to Austin, Texas. The executive was sold, but the wife was highly resistant.
So Tex put together a massive personalized care package for the entire family.
It wasn't just brochures. He sent video footage of happy families water skiing on Lake Travis. He included detailed real estate summaries near top schools. He included 2 cowboy boots full of premium tequila, tickets to live music events selling the whole Austin lifestyle.
And the final piece of persuasion, knowing the wife was concerned about the northern cold.
He presented her with a massive box containing a chinchilla coat, saying, "You can keep this. Whatever you decide, this is my gift to you." It's an absurd gesture, but it demonstrates a profound commitment to removing every last obstacle.
The third F is freedom. This speaks to the autonomy A players demand.
A players hate micromanagement. You hire them to deliver outcomes, now you must give them the freedom to achieve them. Great leaders gain control by ceding control.
George Buckley of 3M is the perfect example of this philosophy.
Buckley understood his role was to inspire risk-taking. If you act like a judgmental boss who is going to punish failure, your A players will play it safe. By extending the hand of trust, he inspired his team to take bigger risks.
The fourth F is fortune. We know money isn't the key motivator for A players, but it's critical.
Money is a disincentive if it's too low, but once it hits a certain level, it's rarely the primary motivator. The key is linking variable compensation directly to the achievement of the specific, measurable outcomes defined in the scorecard.
Carl Lindner of American Financial Group sells the long-term potential of wealth creation.
Right. He encourages candidates to look at the company's history of earnings and shares the personal success that those working with them have achieved. You're selling a partnership, not just a salary.
And the final F is fun, the work environment and personal relationships.
Fun means different things to different A players. For some, it's the challenge. For others, it's the camaraderie of the team, the lack of politics. You must know what fun means to your candidate and sell that specific benefit.
So we have the 5 F's: fit, family, freedom, fortune, and fun. But when in the process should we be selling them? It needs to happen across 5 waves.
Wave 1 happens right at the source stage, identifying their hooks. Wave 2 happens during the interview process, using the Q&A time to address their specific interests.
Wave 3 is the critical time between the offer and acceptance. You stay in constant contact, assuming they have competing offers. You don't want them to feel like you're buying a refrigerator.
Wave 4 is between acceptance and the first day. This is when you make a splash. Send meaningful gifts. Check in on any remaining family doubts. Our own organization, GHS Smart, learned this the hard way, losing a key hire when his new bride, after the wedding, decided the job change was too risky.
And the 5th, most important wave is the new hire's first 100 days. You have to mitigate buyer's remorse with a strong onboarding program focused on immediate success.
And if you are sure you have an A player, the final virtue needed is persistence.
Robert Hurst of Crestview Advisors noted that if you find someone you want, you go after them aggressively. He relentlessly pursued an executive he knew was ready for a bigger role, calling him every couple of weeks over 5 months until the timing was perfect.
That persistence paid off massively. When the situation was right, they were able to move him in immediately, resulting in a 5-fold stock increase for the company.
And that leads us back to the incredible story of the Dealmaker and the Chinchilla Coat, proving that the investment required to land an A player, however astronomical it may seem, is always worth the return.
The Dealmaker bought a failing company. He identified the best executive in the industry, the number 2 at a competitor, making maybe $175,000, and knew he needed him for the turnaround.
But this small-town executive was intimidated by moving his family to New York.
So the Dealmaker decided to eliminate every possible F hurdle immediately. He flew the candidate and his wife up on a private plane, took them directly to a spectacular penthouse co-op overlooking the river, and just said, "This is your home, paid for by the company." He showed them a new Porsche 911. "This is your car."
He was selling a new life, removing all resistance and selling the family first. The Chinchilla Coat was the final emotional flourish. He landed the candidate at an $850,000 salary, plus the housing and transportation.
Which seemed astronomical at the time, but the results. The Dealmaker's firm later sold the revitalized company, achieving an astonishing 20x return on investment in just 4 years.
The cost of the salary, the apartment, the car, and the coat. It was a rounding error against the value created by a single A player.
We've spent this time detailing the A method, but we need to zoom out and remind ourselves why getting the who right is the singular most important thing a leader does.
The research is definitive. A study of over 80 captains of industry asked them to quantify what factors contributed most to business success. They overwhelmingly concluded that management talent accounts for 52% of business success.
Think about that. Talent outweighs strategy, execution, and external factors combined. Strategy and execution are useless if they aren't delivered by A players.
This focus on talent led to the fascinating University of Chicago study on CEO profiles, which paired 313 assessments with actual financial performance. They identified 2 dominant successful profiles, the lamb and the cheetah.
The lambs are the emotionally intelligent ones, respectful, great listeners, open to criticism. They succeed 57% of the time, which, as we said, is certainly better than a coin flip.
But the cheetahs succeed at a stunning, statistically significant rate, 100% of the study.
Sure.
Cheetahs are aggressive, highly persistent, proactive, and set extremely high standards.
This doesn't mean soft skills are irrelevant. Emotional intelligence is vital, but only when it is matched with the propensity to execute, the cheetah's speed and persistence. The cheetah knows when to stop gathering feedback and start attacking the target.
Look at Salim Basool of Middleby again. His success was driven by that hard-charging fast style, which led to a staggering 3,500% increase in stock price over 5 years. Speed, decisiveness, and focus count.
Now, a brief but necessary word of caution as you implement this: you must ensure the A method remains fair and legal.
We stress 4 areas. First, relevance. Stick strictly to the scorecard. Second, standardization. Use the same process for all candidates regardless of their background.
Third, use non-discriminatory language. And fourth, avoid illegal questions concerning things like marital status, health, race, or origin. The A method, because it forces consistency and focus on objective, verifiable data, is inherently fair and legal if you stick to it.
Our entire conversation has centered on the individual A player, but the ultimate goal is the A team.
And that means hiring specialists who execute the specific outcomes on the scorecard in a manner consistent with your company's culture and values. You don't want a team of competing generalists. You want specialists pulling on the oars together. If teamwork is a core value, that brilliant, selfish star is objectively not an A player for your organization.
We started by highlighting the pain and the astronomical cost of the who problem. You now have the knowledge and a simple, proven framework, the A method, to elevate your success rate from 50% to 90% or higher.
And leaders don't wait to find the time to deploy this method. They make the time. This is not optional. It is the most critical driver of long-term business success.
So we leave you with this final, provocative thought to take into your next strategic session. If you were to X-ray your current team today using the scorecard framework and the full rigor of the Who interview, the 3-hour chronological deep dive, what percentage of A players would you actually have, and how dramatically would that reality change your business strategy for the coming year?